And now, right to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Down the Garden Path, where each week we discuss down-to-earth tips and advice for your plants, gardens, and landscapes. As landscape designers, Matt and I know it's important and possible to have great gardens that are low maintenance, and we want to help you make it happen. I'm Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and owner of Down2Earth Landscape Design for the past 11 years. It is currently a design-only business here east of the GTA in Toronto, near Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Here we are. And with me is my co-host, Matthew Dressing. Welcome, Matthew.
Welcome, Joanne. Welcome, everyone. I am Matthew Dressing, horticulturist and landscape designer and owner of Natural Affinity Designs. Natural Affinity is a landscape design and garden maintenance firm servicing Toronto and the Eastern GTA. And as most of you know, I am also an avid garden center employee as well.
That's right.
So Joanne and I enjoy doing Down the Garden Path each week, bringing you interesting, relevant, and helpful topics to help you achieve a great garden. We learn right along with you, from each other, from our research, and from the guests that join us here on the show. As always, we welcome your questions via social media and emails.
That's right. We do. And we want to thank everybody for joining us once again down the garden path. And to remember that this show will also then be turned into a podcast. And so if you're only able to tune in for a bit, or if you're late coming in, we'll repeat this message later. Remember to subscribe to the Down the Garden Path podcast on your favorite podcast app. And you'll be notified every time a new show goes up. So welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Well, it is
freezing outside.
Isn't it, though? I swear, on the way here, as I was getting in the car, I felt ice pellets and some sleet hit my face.
Yes.
What
I
is
know.
going on?
I know. It's April 29th, everybody. Honestly.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Come on.
I know. And we are excited to have our monthly segment back, kind of our gardening season monthly segment, right? Yeah. So we are excited to chat about May in the garden. As Matt writes, May marks the beginning of the upcoming, albeit very short, gardening season here in Southern Ontario, with the Victoria Day weekend generally marking the average last frost date for gardeners here in the GTA. May brings us many inspiring ideas and trends, but there are many not so inspiring things we need to get done to give our gardens their best chance in the year ahead. Tonight, Matt and I are going to talk all about what to do and what not to do in the May garden. Yeah. And we're really hoping that you have lots of questions for us. We're ready. We're ready to talk gardening. If we can't get our hands dirty, we want to talk about it. Right?
You got it.
That's right. So, and we also have some, some garden trends that we can talk about, as well as some May stars of the garden.
Yes.
Which is exciting because it's always good to know some hot plants that we can pop in. So there's always lots to talk about, and we love talking to you, our listeners. So please send in your questions to instudio101@gmail.com.
You got it.
Yeah.
Speaking of inspiration,
yes.
If you're in the GTA area, we did have the Peterborough Garden Show.
We did.
And we talked to Colleen, or you talked to Colleen Viskoff before Easter.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Right. So check out that podcast. But you got to go. I fell ill.
Yes, you were supposed to go on Saturday.
I was.
Yeah. And I went Friday night. So because I was busy at a horticultural AGM on Saturday, so I kind of arranged my schedule to go Friday evening. So it was really cool.
Nice. Oh, we have a listener question from Reality Radio 101. Coffee, Matt? 1 sugar, 1 milk? Yes, thank you very much. Please. Send your Tim cards too. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
But how was it?
It was good. It was not a nice weather day, so it was nice to see. It was another cold, rainy, it was a Friday night. But it was really cool. I think the new venue went well. Nice. I think there's lots of parking. You know, it was a bit of a hike, but, you know, if there's going to be a big parking lot, then you're going to have to walk, right?
Yeah.
But it was certainly, for the Friday night, it was certainly well attended. And from some of the hints Colleen, just posted a thank you to everybody, and she said, everything went well except that the whole city and Eastern Ontario arrived Saturday at the same time. So I think it was really busy. I think people are dying look forward to it. The fact that there's so many vendors that are garden specific, garden art, garden tools, plants. There were a lot of vendors there with plants. So I think that it's really geared for the gardeners. And there were no speakers there were. So I was able to, Friday night, Mark and Ben Cullen were speaking.
Nice.
So I got to hear, it was kind of an informal chat with them. So I got to hear them speak. And have you heard of the Pete Udolph documentary?
Yes.
Yeah. So they were playing that Friday night.
I was going to say, and you got to see it, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We got to see that. So it was good. I'd love to see it again as well. A lot of subtitles. I mean, he's Dutch, so, they're not always speaking English. But no, it was very good. It was very interesting. So that for our listeners, if you are a gardener and if you're keen, you can, Pete Udolph is a famous landscape designer. He designed the High Line. He designed Lurie. I didn't realize Lurie Gardens in Chicago.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know that. They kind of showed the evolution of that, which was really cool. So he's done some really major things, and he has a specific kind of style. And they have done a documentary where they kind of, interview him and kind of follow him around for a bit. And it's really fascinating. So my only complaint is they seem to only really promote it and show it during gardening season when we're all too busy to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know last year at Downtown Toronto, it was playing for one night, and it was like mid-May. And I know Nancy and I were like, are you kidding me? We can't get down there. So this was really an extra bonus that they had that playing Friday night. And I believe they replayed it on Saturday as well. So look for
That's
it, with your documentary theater locations or your small, independent theaters are playing it. It's not, I believe, yet available like on Netflix or anything like that. So so it's kind of a really interesting thing. Mind of a landscape designer and totally old school hands. You see him drawing the icons with pencil, like different color markers and different shapes of flowers and coloring the areas and stuff. It really is neat to see him do something by hand at the scale with which he's designing. So it was pretty impressive.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out.
I know. So that was exciting. Yeah. So I'm sorry to hear that you were under the weather, but
But it was a good show, though. And lots to do and see. And
there was. It was. I didn't end up buying anything. I didn't know.
I was going to ask you that
know.
next.
I didn't. I don't really go for the plants because I can get plants myself. You know. So. So that was good. I bumped into people I knew. I got to see some of that. Like we had Dawn. I got to meet Colleen. So we'd never met face to face, even though I'd interviewed her a few times for the show. Dawn from Gardens Plus was there. So I got to see a few people, and so that was really good.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So, I think it definitely was a hit and ushered in spring for all of the Eastern GTA.
Yes,
for sure. So. So what is happening at the garden center? I know you work today.
Yes.
Yes, I didn't know if you were sick on the weekend, but you did work today. So still setting up and getting ready for the season?
Still setting up. Still a lot of nursery stock is in.
Okay.
There are a good selection of perennials, but there's lots of interesting pots and accessories, and still putting the finishing touches on some displays, but things are really, really coming together and looking good and inspirational. Custom work is looking good. People are starting to get their cool weather pansies and ranunculus and ivies and snapdragons all out there. And
how about bulbs? Like, can people buy some bulbs that are already growing and then put them in their containers?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, all those groups for sure.
Okay.
So people are itching to get out there. It is still really cold, so if you are buying anything like perennials that are maybe coming out a little further, you'll see like at our garden center we have perennials out. We have like daylilies, and they're like 2 feet tall. And
really?
And they're a month and a half plus ahead of themselves. So if you are buying anything already grown perennial, note that like a day like today, where it's like,
keep them in the garage.
Yeah, keep them bright light somewhere, semi-warm, but
Yeah, you can't bring them in the house. Like, That's not good. I would just say don't buy those.
No, it's great to go out and look and see lots
Yeah.
of fun stuff. But again, just like the show, right? It's very inspiring, but be careful with what you buy and you put outside.
For sure.
Nursery stuff. There's lots of stuff that's out in leaf. There, the magnolias are in. They're flowering. We get ours from a little further northern United States, so they're a little ahead, a couple weeks ahead of them here. There's a couple on my street that are starting to flower, but the buds are just cracking now.
Yeah, I was just in a coffee shop working before the show, and there's a magnolia outside the coffee shop, a small one. I was like, oh, and same thing. The buds are huge, but not quite yet.
Yeah, nice and fat. So just be careful. Yeah, we had to take something off of our benches, a couple of stilbies actually, because they got covered in ice. The wind and the rain that was coming, and then the wind just froze the water that had got on their edges. So it is very, very cold.
Yeah.
So inspiring, good time to get in and get anything for your lawn. But
although things are still dormant there, too.
Exactly. But still just kind of be careful there, too. And we're going to talk about that on our do's and don'ts, I'm sure, for
Yes,
May.
And we are sure that you have lawn questions because everybody always does.
It's May. We know you do.
We know you
write
do.
them in now.
Yeah, just get them on their way. So the weather isn't cooperating, but I mean spring's bound to come anyway.
Exactly.
So it'll be here before we know it. And so it's just take your time and kind of enjoy that, you don't have to do too much yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Enjoy just the warming up and being outside in those nice, cooler, sunny days. Yeah. Speaking of gardens, what about your garden? Is it doing anything yet?
I do have, it's a viburnum that I don't know what the name is. I bought it when it's one of my first plants I put in the garden. It's blooming. So yeah, I have a spring bloomer.
Beautiful.
I took a picture of my hellebores that are done. So I definitely need to buy some more hellebores because I need those pops of color in more places in the garden. So I did get a garden cleanup done. So I've kind of cut back a few things and kind of done a bit of a cleanup. I didn't cut a lot back, but like my ornamental grasses are cut back.
Yeah.
And I did take some height out of my limelight hydrangeas and my oak leaf hydrangeas.
Nice.
My oak leaf hydrangeas didn't bloom last year, so I'm always like, okay, do I trim them? Don't I trim them? But they are like a little spraggly looking, so I did do some, not all the way, like not really hard. I don't know. Do you think I should prune them really hard?
Yeah, they're probably okay.
Yeah, so just did some deadheading and some of the longer, just kind of varied the stems a bit. So other than that, I mean, I looked at what I'm always curious because I don't know if our listeners know, so I have a garden that goes right. I don't have a sidewalk on my side of the street, and my garden goes right from my front walkway to the curb. So, and we did get so much snow, and I'm kind of on the corner, so I've got quite a little, we call it a hell strip, but it's kind of like a hell island, I guess, for my yard. And so I'm always, curious and all my neighbors across the street, because we had so much snow, they pushed their snow across the street onto my garden. Because there's nowhere else for them to put it,
right?
Because their homes are a bit closer together. So I was curious to know, like, how is there silt damage? How is everything looking? And so far, so good.
Nice.
So there's still nothing, like, not a ton of greening up yet. But the perennials, like certainly like my catmint and Roseanne geranium, we've cut back last year's growth, and in the center of those plants, the green is coming up, and so we will see.
Exciting.
I know. It's always a bit of a challenge, and I love being able to kind of test out what grows and what doesn't grow, and what's salt tolerant, what isn't salt tolerant, so that I can share that with my listeners and my clients.
Is there anything right now that you are excited to try this year, or is there something that you are really anticipating doing well coming through your trying now, like last year to this year?
You know what I want? Well, I'm not necessarily related to the salt, but last year I did plant those variegated irises with the green and white foliage.
Yeah.
And and I have to say, I planted one clump of them, and I have to say, even though the bloom is, it's fairly short-lived, it's not huge, but I have to say that foliage looks so cool from like 2 weeks ago till the frost last year. So I kind of did a little walk through, and I took some pictures of my garden. I love taking pictures of, I did it before the garden cleanup, and I did it after the garden cleanup, and I'm like, you know what? I need like 4 or 5 more of those clumps pops and kind of just spread out, like those pops of white, and that texture is just a contrast of all the other kind of sprawly things and stuff. So yeah, so I think that's one thing I'm excited to add. And I learned from the Landscape Ontario conference as well to think of plants as mulch.
Yeah.
And so I do need more mulch, but I really would like to get more of a ground cover, kind of understory my plants going. So yeah.
Very nice. Sounds like some exciting things. I love the fragrance of that flower.
Oh yeah, the iris. I didn't even realize it was fragrant.
Yeah, if you smell it when it's in full bloom, if it's the same variety, which it probably is because it's the common one we have around here.
Yes.
But it smells like you've just ripped open a package of grape Kool-Aid powder.
Really?
Yeah, it smells like someone has just come around and put a little bit of that sugary powder in the flower. It's so amazing.
Oh, neat.
It's so
neat.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. So, yeah, so I think that's, my mind starts racing, but I'm like busy with design. So it's like it's hard to focus on my own garden sometimes,
Yes.
So I'm just happy the cleanup got done. Probably a little early now that it's still so cool, but you got to do it I had to get it done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, especially the ornamental grasses, they started to grow, so you want to kind of...
Oh, yeah, once they start, you got to get those down.
Yeah.
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 For sure.
You do. So, we've got a listener question.
Carla's writing in, Hi, Joanne and Matt. I just turned in a few minutes ago. The Peterborough Garden Show was already. Darn, she missed it. She really wanted to go. Do you know of any others in the GTA in the next few weeks? Thanks. P.S. Love your radio show.
Oh, thanks, Carla. I don't. Well, the Toronto did they have their spring fling this weekend?
I thought it was this weekend too.
Yeah, I think it was. So I think everything was kind of this weekend, Carla.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Toronto Botanical Gardens usually has like a spring fling. I think most hort societies have had their CD Saturdays. Lots of plant sales coming up, though. So
Yes.
check out your local area for plant sales from your horticultural societies. I know Pickering's is May 11th. I think May 11th is a big weekend for Oshawa, like for a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I know there's a listing. If you go to Garden Making magazine, they do a listing of all the gardening events. And so that should be a big help, Carla, if you're in the area. And so I'm sorry you missed it. You can hear all about it on the last show podcast that was released a couple weeks ago. So thank you again for listening to our show.
Yeah. So what should we hit next?
I know, May in the Garden.
May in the Garden. So we had already talked about, or you had already talked about doing a little cleanup. So you've cut back your grasses. So if you haven't cut back your big ornamental grasses, we can start doing that. Anywhere from, what do you cut yours back? Which ones do you have?
I really have just the tall ones. I have Carl Forster.
Okay.
And then I have some bloodgrass and some Japanese forest grass, which I didn't really cut because then you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Because it's been so cool, they haven't really started growing. So I have some sedge ones, and I kind of was like, okay, no, let's leave all that stuff alone, so I'm not messing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But the thing about, I love Carl Forster for the fact that it is one of the cooler season grasses, so it will start to grow a little earlier. So that's why it does need to be cut down. If you have any of the miscanthus or any of the what's the Shenandoah? What's the Shenandoah?
The panicum.
Panicum.
Yep,
those are switchgrasses. Those are definitely the warmer season.
Yeah.
So don't worry. Don't pull them out. Don't bring them back to the nursery.
Right.
You are looking after the May long weekend, the end of May, beginning of June, before those ones. And they'll go fast, not to worry. They catch up.
They do. They
really do, but they just need some heat. And with the cool temps we've had during the day, never mind the cool temps at night, they're a little slower. So that tends to be why I really, maybe I kind of even overuse Carl Forster in my designs a little bit, or just, I like it. I like that it does grow faster.
It's a solid plant for sure.
Oh yeah,
it really
stately,
is beautiful.
Yeah, it stays upright.
Exactly, very upright
for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
So get out there, cut those guys back. Again, depending on the size of your variety, anywhere from 8 inches to 1.5 feet is sufficient to get all that dead away. If you do see some new growth coming, do not cut through the new growth. just leave those tips. It kind of, as it starts to grow, it looks a little flat.
Right.
And those blades have grown, and they've grown once. They're not going to regenerate or give you new tips.
Oh, okay.
So
Now, what if we wanted to divide them, though? Like, let's say we wanted to dig out that clump and kind of cut that in half or cut it into 3.
Yep.
But there's new growth happening. Is that okay?
Yeah, so you can divide all those roots and take those segments away.
Okay. So you should dig out the whole...
Right, dig up that root ball as big as you can.
Right.
Depending on how big and how wide it is, maybe it just needs half to quarters. If she's a nice 2 to 3 foot clump, you can probably get 4 to 6 pieces out of her. If she's fairly small and you want to divide her, if she's within 3 years, I wouldn't do it. I'd leave her for a good couple, 3 to 4 years before you get her. Get her some good size.
Okay.
But then, you can divide her and just don't cut any of that new green stuff.
Okay, from the top down.
From the
I know
top.
nobody can see you with your hands.
Yes, I know.
He's making this
like
cutting motion and, unfortunately on the radio, right?
Cut. Any of the new growth coming out, don't cut.
Yeah,
That's
no
when it goes
haircut.
flat.
No haircuts. Oh, but you can saw through it. You can saw through those roots, but you cannot give it a haircut.
Exactly.
And that would probably be the same. I'm sure hostas are probably not even really peeking out yet.
No.
Because of the so cool. But if they are, or if you know where, confidently where they are, then you could do the same thing. Kind of, if you need to divide it, you could kind of dig them out. Now, I find it easier to dig the whole thing out and then divide it and then put, the one back and take the other 2 or 3 away, as opposed to trying to cut it in half in the ground.
In the ground. I agree. I like to take the whole thing out and then do the work.
Yeah. And usually I get an old short, long knife and, kind of like a bread knife, kind of serrated knife. That's the word.
Yeah.
Serrated knife and cut through those roots. So that tends to be how I cut ornamental grasses and hostas. And a sure sign, I know definitely if you don't know how old it is or if it's time, really to me the telltale sign is the kind of die out in the center. Don't you agree?
Yeah. She's starting to die out in the center. She needs some division and some revitalization there for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So ornamental grasses kind of do that too, where there's kind of gaps in the center, as do hostas. So yeah. So that is definitely one of the garden tasks you can do. Still be mindful of, I know I'm always the lecturer on the compressing the soil lecture and the stay out of the garden lecture and stuff. But especially with the cool temps and the moisture we've had, a lot of rain. We're going to get rain more tonight. Apparently Wednesday's going to be a washout. So really walking on your lawn, walking in your garden, it's really, if you can avoid it, please avoid it, because it's just compressing the soil and really preventing some of that water that's important to our gardens now and later from really penetrating.
Yeah, exactly. We need that water to penetrate and that oxygen exchange to happen. So
that's right.
Slows things down.
And I saw a shocking thing today.
What?
I was in a plaza, and whoever does the property maintenance, Matthew, they were cutting the grass.
They were mowing the lawn?
They were mowing the lawn.
What?
I know. It's not growing.
I can't even
I don't know what they were
imagine
doing. That I just feel bad because it's, they're mowing it so they can charge for it, right? So yes. Yeah. So I just wanted to stop, honest to goodness. It was a young kid. Had it been an adult, I think I would have stopped. I don't know. Maybe not. I would have stayed in my car anyway. But I was like, what?
That I can't even imagine hearing the sound of a mower right now.
No, what are they cutting? The water on top of the head?
I don't know. You can tell the whole, he's just, they've sent him out. They need him to do something.
And he was cutting. He wasn't aerating or...
Nope.
Cutting.
He was definitely cutting. Yep.
And there's nothing to cut, really, right?
Nope.
And that's bad to tire... It was a rider mower, of course.
No, actually it wasn't. It was a push mower. Yeah,
okay.
So that's what I mean. I think they just had a young kid and they needed something for him to do so he can get paid. And
oh my goodness,
they had
crazy.
him out at this plaza that mowing from the parking lot to the street kind of thing. And I'm
crazy.
Like, oh my goodness, what in the world? So yeah, it was crazy.
I can't
I know.
Imagine.
So please. We'll segue shortly into our lawns, but they do not need cutting. They do not need watering.
No, there's lots of groundwater. There's lots of rain. The ground is still very cool. It's still thawing out. things aren't really going to grow.
Oh, we got a good listener question here. Hi, Cody. You guys are funny. When are you going to be on Facebook Live? Would love to see Matt's hand puppeteering. Love the show. Thanks, Cody. We tried that once. We did say we would do it again.
Yes, we did.
We'll have to plan that, but we don't have a date yet. Maybe. Yeah. Well, we talked about doing it for our monthly show.
For our monthly shows, and we could bring in some plants.
Yeah, so maybe we'll try that again for June. Maybe.
There you go, Cody.
There you go.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. But yes, it is always funny when the two of us kind of forget that we're not on TV.
Yes.
Not that we want to. Well, at least I don't want to be on TV. Yeah. But anyway, thanks for listening, Cody. Yeah.
So, so stay off everything. I agree with you completely there. Remember, too, a lot of things, especially in the garden center, everyone is anxious to get out there and feed things. So, good, it is going to happen this month. But remember, if it's asleep, it's not eating. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're in bed and I bring you turkey dinner, unless I wake you up, you're not really going to be eating it. Same thing with our plants. So you can put it down. If you really want to, I still wouldn't. Again, it's so rainy and cold. It's not really activating. It's going to wash away. It's going to dissolve. Yeah. You're wasting your time. So wait until you start to see some growth. Then get out there, and that's when she's going to be actively looking for resources. So hold on. The only thing you really would be feeding and just kind of going into the putting down right now that is technically a fertilizer would be your corn gluten.
Okay.
And we're right on the edge of that for that crabgrass start with the forsythia. Because forsythia, if you're not familiar with it, if you look around and when you're driving around, it's that big yellow thing that's starting to just go all yellow flowers.
I haven't seen any in my neighborhood. How about you?
I have, yeah.
Have you? Okay.
And in a weird spot, I saw one that was really shady, like on the northeast side of a couple tall evergreens, and she was going.
Really?
I thought, you must be really cold in there, but you're actually getting some good color. So go out on your lawn, but the only thing you would ever want to do right now, ever, is no raking, no whatever.
Everybody's raked.
Exactly. It's already
honest
done
to gosh,
that.
you guys are so keen about at least my neighborhood where I drive, they are so keen to get at those rakes, man. So if you haven't done it, give yourself a good pat on the back because you shouldn't have done it.
I haven't done it. You can tell my lawn. I've done crap.
That's just because you know we were coming.
Yeah, that's right. And also because I'm lazy.
Well, that's good. I mean, really, I think sometimes spring is being lazy. The fall is certainly being lazy these days.
Yeah.
And there's no rush.
No. The corn gluten, if you've got a big weed problem, because the corn gluten stops all those crabgrass seeds.
Mm-hmm. But you do need to apply it for a couple consecutive years.
The more you put down and the more regularly, seasonally you put down, the corn protein will build into those weedy areas. Okay. So if you can put it down in the fall and then again in the spring, that would be good.
That's good. I'm wondering if I should do it. I know I did get a text from my friend who moved to Sarnia, and they live across the street from kind of a naturalized area. Oh, nice. And she said, like 10 minutes after her husband put the corn gluten down, the ducks were literally walking across the street.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Feeding off of her lawn. So I don't know how many weeds are going to be protected. So, that's the downside is that the critters love...
It is. It's literal corn byproduct. Yeah. I say that, too. If you know you've got flocks of birds hanging out or geese, or if you're down by the lake and the seagulls are starting to come towards the beaches, you're in for some fun.
You're definitely in for some fun. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Gwen is writing in. Hi, new listener from Fredericton, New Brunswick. We love it. Thank you, Gwen. We love knowing where you are. Welcome to the show. I heard about the show from a guy that works with Mark Cullen. They highly recommended you guys. Nice show.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you very much, Gwen.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Gwen. Yeah. We're always excited. And you'll have to write in and let us know what zone you are because it's so eclectic, right? Yeah. We've had the Las Vegas people and the California people chime in and make us feel really bad because they've got such a long growing season but we definitely are commiserate with higher zones, right? Yes. like New Brunswick. And and a shout out to next week where just preempt that Nikki Jabour is joining us from Nova Scotia. So that's going to be exciting. So we definitely give a good shout out to Eastern Canada.
Yes, Eastern Canada, it's your time.
That's right.
So staying off the lawns, et cetera. But when it does dry out, as May progresses, it's a good time. You can start putting down some composts, revitalize that soil, do any amendments to your veggie gardens that you need to do.
Kind of start prepping those.
Yeah, exactly. Start prepping those, remove any of the weeds. Remember, things like tomatoes can be very heavy feeders. So that crop rotation or making sure they get those nutrients back into the soil. If you plant in the same spot, just make sure you get those guys in there again.
Now, speaking of tomatoes, so I'd love to know if our 5B. So Gwen, you're the same as us. So we're 5B here in Ontario as well. So there you go.
That's amazing.
I know.
Never think that.
I know.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but she's probably the water probably.
That probably does help.
Yeah.
Probably.
Vegetables. So so do we have any listeners who've started or ambitious? Have you done seed? Do you normally do seeds?
I don't, but I went after indigo rose cherry tomatoes.
Sorry, say that again.
Indigo rose. Cherry tomatoes.
Okay.
And so
seeds?
Seeds, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Semi-determinate bush variety. Really it's one of the darkest. And my seed pack says it is the darkest, but one of a very, very dark, like black blue cherry tomato with a good acidity, but a nice sweet flavor to it at the same time. So I've started to kind of grow those. And they've got an 80-day.
Okay.
So I thought, why not?
Yeah,
go for it.
Good for it. Yeah, I just admire the seed packages on my shelves. I never seem to get around to planting anything, but So every year, I know. Julie would be so disappointed. I didn't follow her on social media. Our friend who is an avid seed starter, and written her book on seed starting. But no seed starting for me. And I'm happy to support the garden centers my son will plant vegetables. He's already asking, Mom, when do I plant? I'm like, after they go fishing that weekend. I'm like, after you get back from fishing. Yeah. So putting the vegetables right outside. Yeah. So
before I speak on that, the other thing I'm going kind of veggie is nasturtiums.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
So
okay.
Nasturtiums, they're immature seed heads.
Yeah.
They're smaller to medium-sized leaves, as well as the flowers are edible.
They are.
And have a very nice peppery taste I like to add.
Excellent. So what do you need to do? Because sometimes flowers need to be either soaked or roughed up or something like that. Did you have to do anything to those seeds?
I like to soak them for 4 to 6 hours just to kind of do it.
But that's all. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so.
Are things starting to sprout?
Yeah. They've
and do you have lighting and stuff, or are you just doing a window?
I just have a south window that I just kind of have a table set back, and it kind of keeps them warm and where they're going.
Excellent. So if any of our listeners have any questions about seed starting, you can send them to Matthew. Because we know I don't, I know a lot about it and I've read about it, but it's just I've never really been successful hands-on. So.
Fair enough. Not everybody is.
Yes, that's right. So there's lots of stuff we can put right in the garden come after the May long weekend.
Exactly. And just in our garden center, we know that the second week, the 2 weeks before the May 2-4 weekend, tends to be the peak of when a lot of the vegetables are in. So don't wait too long to go and scout your vegetables out.
Right.
Check your local garden centers. I know we've got things like strawberries, rhubarb, blueberries.
Okay.
More of the shrubby, berry-producing things out already.
Excellent.
More, some cold crop lettuces. So take a look just before the May 2-4 weekend for things like that.
And even if it's not, we can't put them out into the garden yet, it is time you can buy them and keep them in the garage or something like that, right? Keep them protected before you can plant them. But yes, inventory, it tends to kind of dwindle after that for veggies, right?
Especially if you're looking for some rare, super hot peppers or interesting tomatoes and things like that.
Yeah, and tune in next week because Nikki's book, Veggie Remix. Yeah. So she's got some exciting, unique veggies that we're going to talk about. So cool. Some different ones for sure. So I think that's going to be great. And so I think, feeding the soil, like you said, getting our vegetable gardens. I'm on some gardening Facebook pages. It seems everybody's kind of keen. Some people are turning perennial beds into veggie beds, so they're kind of going to, donate, get rid of their plants and kind of donate them. I noticed that was kind of a common theme,
Yeah, and you know what? And just further in our little things, we had some notes on trends and veggie gardens. Again, like the garden centers, it's the hottest growing commodity year after year after year. And a lot of the trends are showing that people are just like you said, they're sacrificing perennial and annual space and they're mixing in veggies have to be grown everywhere. They're finding spaces in traditional flower bed areas or containers or the mix. So they're very hot that way.
Yeah, definitely. And yet they still continue to containers as well. So a lot of people are asking, what will grow in a container, what will grow on the balcony like you have, or patios. Some people are putting in bigger patios and less gardens, but want to have plants and veggies on their patios. So it's really, there's really so much versatility now.
Yeah.
Isn't there?
It is. It's very versatile. Sure.
So that's good. But definitely growing your own food, I think, is definitely a popular trend that isn't showing any signs of slowing down.
Nope. I think it's a new movement, and I hope it's here for a very long time.
Yes. Yeah. So that's good. Especially some of those indoor. I know I was visiting a client when we went inside to present the quote. They had one of those indoor little gardens, and so under grow lights. So they had their little pods of growing basil and parsley and different things. Yeah, that too. We need to do a show on that. We're working on that
because it's legal now.
I know. We do need a show. Although the law hasn't figured out how we're there, because you can only grow 4 plants. Right?
Yeah, you can only legally possess 4 plants.
But do you guys sell them at the garden center?
We don't, and that's the number one question. When are your pot supplies coming in, and how many pot plants are you guys?
Have you talked about that management that eventually that you will provide that?
And you know what? We've decided that our location won't. But we have heard there are a lot of smaller greenhouse operations, Niagara on the Lake, the Golden Horseshoe area, that have closed their annual production for annual herbs and flowers and things, and have gone totally cannabis.
Really?
Because they can.
So
much easier and more profitable for them to do.
Of course.
So I think right now, if you want to grow it, you can either start them from seed. You can order the seeds legally, of course, or you can. I think even the bare root plants. No. I'm pretty sure I thought that was the thing.
I hadn't seen that, but I would believe, I could see that.
So, but yes, that definitely needs to be a show. And I'm sure our U.S. listeners are like, what are they talking about? But yes, since cannabis is legal here in Ontario, in Canada, and we're still trying to sort out all the ins and outs about it. So growing it is still a little. I did reach out to a few companies, but I think everybody's reaching out to them. So I haven't gotten anybody yet to come on the show. But definitely stay tuned for that episode.
Yes. It'll be a growing conversation for sure.
That's right. And time is flying. Oh my goodness. I know. So we did mention a few things about the lawn. So no cutting it. Certainly you could put a slow release fertilizer if you have to, but again, it's still really sleeping. Yeah. Grass seed. Tons of people. I went out for a walk Saturday night with a friend, and tons of people had already put soil, top dressing, and seed down. And I'm like, the grass seed will not germinate until our evening temperatures are 15 degrees. And what is that in American?
In Fahrenheit.
I don't know. No idea. That's Celsius and Fahrenheit. I don't even know which one. But anyway, it needs to be much warmer.
Yeah, and the soil needs to be warm too.
Yes.
Yeah, we need those 16 to 22s and that soil temperature. Unless it's like 10 to 12 degrees, she's not even going to consider cracking.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't believe us, it really is on the bag. And teeny, tiny font, but it's on there. So I have people like, no, I don't believe you. I've always done it this early. I'm like, read the bag.
Yeah. And you can put it down, but it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And like we said about corn gluten, birds and animals are smart.
And the rain, like a hard rain comes and it's just going to wash it all away.
Shift and buried or gone.
Yeah. So definitely. Now is also not the time. So in cleaning up our gardens and pruning like the grasses, cutting back some, I just deadheaded for the most part my hydrangeas. I cut the limelight, which I'm trying to control the size, as well as the oak leaf. I cut back a bit more. But other than that, I really just did a deadhead. Yeah. But I think it's too soon to do like yews and boxwoods, is it not?
Yeah. Unless you can see some very obvious damage on it, like it's definitely just let her be. So, the boxwoods and yews and around where I am, they're still half bronzed from it's so cold. They're just greening up. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Because and the thing is, people are like, well, what's the harm? And it's like, well, the new growth is coming much like flowers,
Right.
really. You know, you don't want to cut anything that's about to flower. So you also don't want to cut your evergreens, even though they're green. They're going to shoot as soon as we get some heat. You know, by the end of May, beginning of June,
right.
that's where all their new growth is going to come out.
Right.
And so then by mid-June, then you can give it a cut back.
Right.
So that's why. So, you know, yeah, if there's a ton of salt damage on your boxwood, then, you know, chances are it might not survive at all. So yeah, you can cut out some of that damage, but otherwise I would just hold on till the end of the month.
You got it. Yeah. Just let her do her growth thing mid-May through mid-June and then prune it. Yeah. You want that new growth to give you that new shape and fill any gaps.
That's right.
That the winter damage or something's happened.
Yes.
And
yeah.
You can stress her. So yeah, exactly.
Don't rush to it. And then that way the new growth could maybe hide some of that, you know, salt damage and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That salt damage or something.
Definitely. So go ahead.
Justin writes in, woohoo, now that will be a show. The Cannabis Hour with Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing. Love you guys.
That's a great.
Thanks,
so we'll have
Justin.
to remember that title now for when we do the show. There we go. Thanks, Justin. Excellent.
Yeah, we'll have to do that one.
And so we're leaving our yews and evergreens and cedars. Everybody leave them alone, right?
Leave them alone. It's more of a thing to do in June.
Right.
It's more of a June in the garden kind of task. Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Good. So we will definitely cover that in June.
We will.
For same fertilizing, like they're not really soaking up. They're not actively. Really, they're taking in food when they're actively growing. And right now, they're still really not actively growing. They're greening up slowly, but I wouldn't say they're growing. Right?
No. Yeah, they're not growing. They're just kind of chlorophylls are dividing, and food is. They're just kind of greening. They're warming up, and they're showing their color again. Yep.
Okay. So, do you want to talk about, we can talk about some of the plants of the year? Or is it plants of the month? What are you?
Well, I didn't know if we really hadn't said anything, and I know they're kind of everybody's out there, but there's the plants of the year. So
right.
Every year there's the American Hosta Association throws out what the Hosta of the year is.
Okay.
And then the garden centers and everybody else has like this. Oh, it's the big one.
Yes.
And the garden clubs. So this year, I put the shrub and the perennial and things down.
And the annual, excellent.
Annual. So just quickly, if you haven't already heard. A Hosta Lakeside Paisley print is the Hosta of the year. Pretty nice. It's a smaller one. It's 18 to 20 inches tall and 23 inches wide. Low growing mound with greens, yellows, and creams spilling out from the midrib to the wavy upturned edge of the leaf. Blooming purple flowers in the summer. And I had a zone there, and I believe it's up to zone 4 for that one.
Okay.
I'm interested. Have you seen this one? It was all over Canada.
That's where I saw it. All over
right?
Canada Blooms. So Electric Love Woodgelia from Blooming Easy. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a great one. It's only 1 to 2 feet tall and 3 to 4 feet wide, low mounding, but it's got a true red flower over very dark wine-colored foliage.
Yeah, and that I can't wait to see, because as much as that shape was there at Canada Blooms and that dark foliage was there, but nothing was really in bloom.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about it. So I usually try to test a couple of these out. I know our mutual friend Nancy, who's a landscape, she's putting it in all her designs. I'm like, oh, but wait, like, what do we have to make sure it performs? So but I don't know if I have any more room for one. But we'll see. I'm running out of my room.
Hey, there's one of those ground living mulches, 1 to 2 feet.
Yeah, I guess. I was thinking of something a little lower, don't you think? But yeah, that's exciting. It is nice to have another one that's compact, that's burgundy, and certainly a true red flower.
And that's what I find most interesting. Red and blue are the hardest true colors to find. So I'd love to see the red. Okay,
so everybody, that's called the Electric Love Woodgelia from Blooming Easy. And Perennial. This one's interesting.
Perennial, the Alpine Betony Stichus monieri humello. 18 to 20 inches tall by 18 to 23 wide. Clump forming, blooming thick spikes of purple flowers through the summer. You can divide it in spring and cut it back hard after flowering to tidy up the medium green, rounded lanceolate serrated leaves. zone 4 to 8. So much like a hosta, a heuchera, or those cranes bills, as the season really wears on through the summer.
Right.
That new foliage comes through on the bottom.
Okay.
You can take some of the tired stuff off and tidy it up.
So I'm not familiar with this one. So what does it look like?
So medium green.
Like a salvia, like the flower spiky flower?
Yeah, sorry, I see. So yeah, kind of like a salvia flower, squarish, round stem, kind of tall, about 10 inches tall.
Oh, okay, it's a little shorter.
Nice spike. Maybe it's the thickness or the roundness of a quarter. And then, a shorter flower, maybe 4 to 6 inches with some nice rich purples on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So that is humelo.
Yes, humelo.
And and we don't usually talk a lot about annuals on the show, but you wrote down an annual.
Proven Winners has got the Sedum mexicanum lemon coral. So it reminds me of, it looks very much like our Sedum angelina.
Okay.
That yellow spiky sedum.
No, they're marking it as an annual, but will it overwinter, do you think?
Not here.
Oh,
it says it's zone 7. So
okay.
Somewhere,
okay.
maybe,
so we have some lucky zone 7 to 11 listeners.
We do. So 7 to 11, yeah. And if you do like it, the angelina is the perennial version for 6 through 1 zones.
Okay.
Zones 6 through 1 or 1 through 6.
1 through 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just vigorous, drought tolerant, beautiful chartreuse foliage.
Okay. Good.
Not really grown for its flowers.
Okay. Yeah. So great for containers. Probably a nice thing to kind of hang over the edges.
Yeah.
Right.
Containers, some ground covers. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
In the last of the year, as we come into the last 10 minutes, living coral is the Pantone color of the year. So very coral, orangey, salmony kind of color to me. But you can find them in petunias. There's begonia, verbenas, pelargonium, zinnias, dahlias. The newer At Last rose that you're going to see everywhere has that kind of coral color. Echinaceas, lots of different perennials and plants that are out there. So if you like to keep up with the color of the year, there's lots to choose from. Yeah,
or if you just want something different, if you've always done the red or you've always done the fuchsia, it's nice to know that there'll be some options, a bit more options with the coral this year. So, so that'll be good. Okay, well, that's good. There's always a lot to choose from, and I know we're just all excited to get them in the stores. I do want to remind everybody too. I know everybody gets keen in a couple of weeks around Mother's Day weekend and buying your mother those flowering baskets and stuff. Just keep in mind that they're not you're not the thing to buy. Well, I just am biased. I think it's better to buy a gift certificate for one bit later in the season.
Yeah.
Because those ones are kind of forced early and really blooming and really root bound, and so they don't tend to last through the month of May, really.
Yeah, and then you get to see some of the ones with the cool season stuff in it too. They have like a million bell and some other cool
some pansies and stuff?
Yeah, like a pansy or just like a ranunculus or something weird in them. So they can be some interesting mixes that may half peter out by the heat. By the heat, right?
Yeah. So we all are all about down to earth practical advice here, and so we're pretty practical, and we are not afraid to tell you what not to do.
No, exactly.
So we are not here pushing any product or anything like that. We just know sometimes it's just better to wait, right?
It is. It's just better to enjoy and go out and visit garden centers and get that inspiration and see what's new and get your fix.
Yeah.
But patience definitely is
for sure. And I think sometimes people think that, like, especially people who want to try gardening, get all keen and they go out and buy all that stuff really early, and then it peters out and it won't bloom for them, and so that they think they've done something wrong.
Right.
Really. And I can't grow anything. I don't have a green thumb. And I hear that from clients all the time. And really, it's about the right plant in the right spot and, frankly, at the right time when it comes to spring.
Yes.
So those spring baskets, they're like, wow, right away. But it really aren't meant, unfortunately, to last throughout the season. So it's better. If you want to take them out of that and put them in a bigger container, later on the season, that would work if you want to do that. But if you're going to buy that 10-inch pot that's blooming on May 10th, it's not going to be blooming on June 10th.
It.
It really isn't, right? There's no room for soil anymore. There's no room for fertilizing,
No.
that type of thing. So we just we're here. That's why we're here, to kind of save you some headaches.
That's right.
So, yeah, and we've got some exciting shows. We're looking forward to the summer, aren't we? Lots of new shows and new podcasts, and I'm excited about next week's show with Nikki. How about you?
Yes, so am I.
Yeah.
So am I.
We've had listeners request us to get her, so
We
I'm so
do.
glad
So-
that, and I believe she has a radio show, and it is launching, I believe, this weekend. I noticed on social media. So with a big shout out to Nikki. And she teams up with a couple, I don't know if you're aware, a couple of other horticulturalists, and they write a blog called Savvy Garden.
Mhm.
So look for that. And Jessica and Tara and Nikki, they cover the bases. From Jessica writes about insects. Tara writes about raised vegetable gardens and different things. So they both write a lot of great stuff. So definitely check them out.
For sure.
Whether you are north or south of the border, they write a lot of great tips and tricks.
Yes.
So
Excellent.
that's good. Yeah. What else do we want everybody to know about the month of May? I think patience is our biggest one, right?
Yep. That's
Maybe next year at May in the Garden will be Patience in the Garden show.
That's it. May. Patience in the garden.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. Take some pictures. I mean, now's a really good time to see. Sometimes through the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get a different view of where you might have holes, where things might be too close together. I think now is a really good time. As far as winter damage, like does that shrub keep getting damaged every winter? Is that where you're putting the salt? Maybe that shrub, instead of replacing it, maybe something else deciduous or that perennial that dies back down to the ground should go there.
Yep.
So it's a really good time to kind of have a different look, as you're trying to be patient, to have a different look at the garden.
Yes. Yeah. There's still lots to see. You can see all the bones of your garden for sure.
Yeah.
Lots to see and lots to learn. And yeah.
And it's
pictures
not
is a
too
great
late.
idea.
Yeah. And it's not too late to call a landscape designer or garden designer in your area.
Mm-hmm.
I know, so I've mentioned in some of those forums that I listen to, I'm amazed, I guess I'm biased because I am a designer and I love helping people. So I find sometimes in the forums, you've got inexperienced gardeners asking for help from other inexperienced gardeners, right? Or new gardeners or that type of thing. And it's really not that cost prohibitive to ask for help from a garden designer. Or go to your local nursery. They will have designers on staff as well.
Mm-hmm.
They can do in-store designs, that type of thing. I think the little bit of investment in that planning and getting some professional advice will save you hundreds of dollars over the next few years. Don't you agree? I mean,
Yeah.
it really, I know firsthand. I mean, I got into this because we bought a house full of perennials that I didn't know what to do with, and we rototilled them all, and I wasted and bought all the wrong, all these massive shrubs that, grew to be too big, and then we had to take all of those out. So I really want to encourage everybody to consider that wherever you are. Reach out to a local garden designer, landscape designer for some advice. They all, even the high-end ones, will have a low service, or they'll know of somebody that will do a little consultation for you and give you some advice. I really do. What to plant where, really long term, what will get you the best seasonal interest for your gardens. So really do want to encourage everybody. I mean, Matt and I are here in the GTA. You can find us if you need us. I'm at down2earth.ca with the number 2. And Matthew, you're
naturalAffinityDesigns.ca.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're here, but we know our listeners are coming from all over, and there are lots of qualified landscape designers all over North America, all over the world, really.
Yeah. And you know what? If you are listening and you're far away and you'd still like our help, you can always send us an email with questions and pictures through our sites.
We love design dilemmas. Yeah.
Exactly. Write us here on the show, our design dilemmas. We're always open to your design dilemmas. You can always send pictures here to instudio101@gmail.com. We can take a look and answer your question live or not live.
That's right. Or we'll get back to you.
Or we can get back to you. It's up to you. But we're always here to help. And you know what? We, like you said, down to earth tips, tricks, and advice. And we want you to be successful.
Yes.
That's that's our passion for the show.
That's right. And I do want to mention, I failed to mention this in the past, but on my website at down2earth.ca, the number 2, you can sign up for a seasonal tips guide.
Yes,
so
yes.
that, so spring, I cover spring, summer, basically the stuff we talk about here. But if you want to have a handy guide at your fingertips, then please sign up for that. You can find that right on the front page of my website, and that'll get you. I do a monthly newsletter as well, basically covering the same stuff that we talk about on the show. So it just helps everybody know what to do in that month in the garden and what not to do.
You got it. Exactly. And as always, don't forget, check out the podcast.
That's right.
Check out your Down the Garden Path on your favorite podcast provider, and you can find all the tips, tricks, and advice from previous episodes and subject matter to like, subscribe, and share.
That's right.
And get your fill while we be patient.
That's right. That's right. So, well, we thank everybody. Thank you so much for being here and joining us once again down the garden path here on Reality Radio 101. Bye, Matt.
Bye, Joanne.
Bye, Gary.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your hosts, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101.